Good evening. I have 7 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda, I need to bring it back up. Computer will cooperate. All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening. I have the agenda here, but for some reason my computer's not helping me out tonight. Okay, first item is manager's report on for the workshop. Is this right? That's what it says.
Yep.
All right?
Yeah, actually, it's just the budget utility funds. Just
Oh, go to the second item?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to structure it so you guys could read.
Oh.
Before.
Okay. All right. We'll go to the second item then. Utility funds. So, Mr. Barry Smith.
All right. Well, good evening. Tonight's our fourth workshop, and tonight we'll be talking about our enterprise funds or utility funds, water, sewer, solid waste, and stormwater. We'll run through the proposed budgets and the highlights, kind of like we did for the general fund, and get some feedback from council. So start off with, where does the money come from regarding our utility funds? And it's all solely based off of user fees and user charges, water service, sewer service, trash service, stormwater. So we'll start off with the water fund. The revenues for the 27 year are kind of blended between 24 and 25, 26-ish a little bit as well. As you remember, in 24, we had no water restrictions. 25, we had 1 day restrictions. And now we're on the 3-day restriction schedule for the week. So it's pretty hard to estimate the revenue side of that. So it's all kind of blended together on that side. For the expenditures on the highlights, we included an additional $75,000 in the wages and benefits for the pay study that was approved at the last council meeting. We're maintaining our water tower maintenance contract for $75,000. We're continuing our water meter replacement program at $45,000. So that helps us purchase all the new meters needed for development, as well as meters to replace the aging and failing meters throughout the city.
Why are we paying for meters for development? I thought the developers paid for those.
They pay a tap fee. So,
Oh, it's part of the
Yeah,
tap fee.
yeah.
So it's just
We
passed
pay
through.
it and
Okay.
it's recouped through the permitting process.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You get that. You've done this a long time. It's all good. All good. We're continuing our GIS information input for water, sewer, stormwater, et cetera. Maintaining our Wichita water purchases around $650,000, updated CCUA operation and debt payments according to the CCUA budget. We have our planned water line or water main replacements for the 2027 fiscal year. That comes out to just over $900,000 there. We'll touch on that here in a second. And then we're also requesting $75,000 to go ahead and start purchasing the remaining water sampling stations that we need around town. The sampling stations allow us not to have to knock on a door to go inside to get a water sample. We can just stay outside at the main, turn on sampling station, gather the sample, ship it, and mail it off for testing.
Can you quickly just, what does GIS stand for?
Geographical information systems. So we look online at all the parcels and plot lines and all that stuff. We have our own GIS system to track our water infrastructure and sewer lines. So if we're out in the field during a break, we can pull up the GIS and know exactly where that line's at when we're repairing it and get to it.
Thank you.
and a little more information on that, Councilmember McIntosh, and we kind of did a big presentation on this. What was that? Early 2025, I think. Bel Aire was under roll out the map and try to find things. And in 2024, we started mapping all our infrastructure on basically a digital map. And then that's just continuing that as we grow and continue to build out that map. So it's going to be a multi-year project. And I think we got a vast majority of it done and just continue to locate all the valves. And I'm sitting over here looking at Marty. He's the one that uses it primarily so that we can basically join the 21st century in our utility.
All the remaining expenses for the commodities, other service areas, they were just adjusted to match our operational needs for next year. So I did want to touch a bit about the water purchases from Wichita. As we know, Wichita's been increasing their rates about 8.7% for the past couple years, and it will continue through 2028. So right now, we purchase water via the uniform wholesale volume rate, which means it's a flat dollar amount per 1,000 gallons we buy from Wichita, which is a flat amount. Right now, it's $6 per thousand. It's going to go up to $7.09 per thousand during 2028 as of January 1st. Our city schedule is on the right side. We sell water in blocks. So 0 to 2,999 gallons, it's $4.47 per thousand, et cetera, all the way up till 25,000 and over. Our resolution set in water rates allows for a 3% increase annually, year over year, to maintain adequate revenues to finance our water department. So the next slide is an example of why CCUA is so important and why we need to utilize them as much as we can, because the cost from CCUA averages from $3 to $4, but the cost from Wichita is going to be up over $7 as of January 1st of 28. So just for example, on the side there, for 25,000 gallons of usage, our water department profits $19.30 if it's purely Wichita water we're using at that point in time. That same amount in 2028 would be $2.36. So throwing it out there, we really would like to heavily rely on that CCUA water production. So this year we implemented a new software tool called Waterworth, and it's been a tremendous help. They're awesome people. We've essentially modeled out our entire water and sewer billing structure. So we know percentage of users via class. It can develop rate structures if we want to look at changing those block rates or move to an average winter consumption model or anything we want to do. It accounts for population growth. We've uploaded our data from 24 and 25 to account for all those new utility accounts per year, so we can model that out as well. It also models usage, non-usage accounts like our city water accounts, everything. It's got it all. And that's what I kind of built this long-range forecast for this presentation. So here's just a snapshot of what the backside of it looks like. We insert all of our general ledger account lines that we use for water and sewer. Build out that model. We can forecast out over 10 years out the way. We can include our entire capital improvement program over that same time period and build up that model to see if we're going to be earning enough revenue to meet our expenditure needs over time. So to start off, this is all the operating expenses for the water fund between now and 2034. We assumed a 2 to 5% growth on all the commodities and contractuals, as well as our pay plan steps and increases for our personnel side of things into this category here. Here's our debt that's solely supported by the water fund here. Our CIP plan with all the water main replacements. This is that modeled out here. And to touch on that CIP plan once again, we're replacing all the aged water mains throughout the city, all the cast iron, all the old sow pipes. So once this plan is completed, we should be 100% PVC, correct, Marty? Yes. So I don't know any other city could say that same sentence that I just did right now, but within 10 years, we should be at that point, which is pretty amazing. So all that's built into the model as well. So here's all those expenses stacked on top of each other. So now we need to model out our revenues to meet that expenditure requirement. We do that here with our sale of water, our other operating revenues, our interest earned, our connection fees, all those items. So I presented this, I want to present it this way the first time, which this is if we were to not increase rates any further and we just kept them frozen. So that's what the status quo model is in this situation. As you can see, here's all our expenses on the backside, revenues on the front side in the bar charts. The solid black line is our cash position, and the dotted red line is our target reserve balance of 30% of revenues. So obviously, if we didn't raise rates ever again, that cash position is going to dwindle over time. But with our current,
So this model assumes you're stopping the 3% increase each year?
yeah, this is just to give a visual of what that would look like if we did.
If
we
you
just
did
kept,
that,
yeah,
okay.
if we kept
I
rates.
just wanted to
the
make sure I
same as they
understand
are
what
now.
the assumption of the model was. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
So the next chart is what we have in place currently with the resolutions, 3% per year, year over year, moving forward. So you can see on this chart, our cash position fluctuates up and down, along with the CIP plan and debt in the background. but it never does get below our 30% reserve target over time. So as we look at this in the future and figure out if we want to change rate structures or look at changing what the percentage of increase we do, we'll always use this tool as a good modeling to help us explore those options if we ever want to.
Did you model this where we just waived the 3% increase only for 2027 and went back to it in 2028 to see what that looked like?
Not yet. So part of tonight was to get those particular scenarios to bring back and put into the model. So if there's anything you're thinking, do you want me to explore or bring back to you?
Yeah, I'd like to see
Please.
what that would look like and see if how that affects
So like a
us.
1 year freeze on.
Yeah, we're on your freeze on the increase. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of things with water that I just keep in the back of our mind. I know the mayor and CCUA board have been discussing how do we store more water at CCUA to allow us to capitalize what Barry said on the lower cost of CCUA water. The second is, and few members on here, and we probably need to get a dust up of our utility master plan. As we continue to grow in the Sunflower Commerce Park, there's only a matter of time. We're going to need another water tower out there. And that's a pretty big expense that's not baked into Barry's numbers quite yet. Those are the type of capital improvements we want to start talking about so we can set some flagpoles and really model those out. Because right now, a lot of our capital improvement has to do with maintenance and replacement, but growth is also going to have effect on our water and our water rates. Hopefully a good impact. I just want to keep those couple of those points in our minds as we continue down this road of talking about what our rate should be and what it shouldn't be.
Well, I agree with that, but most growth, not all, but most growth is done through special assessments to the property owners, but not everything. I get that. So you're probably not going to special assess a water tower to the property owner unless they're a really big user.
Well, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but one of those priorities on Barry and I's list is looking at kind of our economic development model, where for the longest time in Bel Aire, we do a main and that main serves a particular development. Now we're starting to get stacked developments and how we want to finance some of those water mains going forward with benefit fees or maybe just a connection fee, a flat rate. And it all ends in the same way. Council members and mayor is, the person connecting to the water main will pay for the water main, but it might require some upfront costs for the city until those connections are made. But these are all conversations we're having inside this building, and we'll present to you when the time comes. But as we continue to grow, the more problems or not, more challenges present themselves, and we'll have to be on our toes to make sure we can meet those challenges.
Okay.
Is there a scenario in here where we're watering from Wichita that we're looking at?
Not the one that I've modeled that scenario, no.
Today, but I guess is that a path forward at all, or we like being connected to Wichita, or we're kind of stuck with the contract?
We would always want to be, and we can, the third model, interesting model in Bel Aire is we don't have that one large water user, industrial user that we can count on. A lot of our water usage, if you track through the years, is weather dependent, a lot of irrigation in Bel Aire. So with that, we'll always need a Wichita water connection. Now, the amount of gallons we need will fluctuate. The reason we'll need a Wichita connection is to, one, it's very good practice to have second connection on. And as of right now, we need it to fill our water tanks. I believe, Marty, is that correct, at night? So our water operator, I asked him that a lot, and he said, no, we're always going to need a Wichita connection until CCUA can supply that, so we don't let our water tower levels run dangerously low.
And I guess one other question I had was, for the parts of Bel Aire that were built on Wichita water, probably primarily, or when we go through and replace, are we sizing mains so that we could pump water back that direction if we were to, because I think I think in Goddard, we have a connection as a backup to Wichita if we ever needed to turn it on, but that was just really as a backup. If it wasn't I'm not sure if we're putting money or not for that.
So I think with our system as works, the water connection we have from Wichita just loads to the towers, okay? And it's just a supplement to the towers from what CCWA loads to the towers. So it doesn't go to a particular neighborhood, it just goes to the towers, and the towers supply the water. And our towers are pretty well balanced, so that keeps them out of troubles, because if they're not balanced, it becomes a problem. CCUA has to deal with that with Park City because they're not balanced, and they have to be very careful about how they load those towers. So it's a different problem for them. But yeah, along the lines of your thought about could we stop using Wichita? In theory, yes. We have the water reserves. We have all of that, but we can't produce the water. We don't have the capacity. Right now, our capacity is about 2 million gallons a year or a day out of the CCUA. It's can tap up 3.5 million gallons a day, but if you try to run at that rate, it would fail. You'll degrade the water that you're sending out. So in theory, it has the ability, but in practicality, 2 million gallons a day is about what you're going to get out of there. And that's to service both cities, both Wichita and Park City. So that's one of the reasons we're looking at additional storage capacity possibly, because if you had additional storage capacity, you could ramp up that rate at a and maybe produce 2.5 million and store some or something. You could do some different things, but right now we don't have that capital to do it, and that's probably our limiting factor is the equipment just to make that happen. Okay.
I was going to ask a question about not just storage, but production. Has there been serious conversations at the CCUA board level about expanding the water plant?
There's not, although we're looking at some things. Okay.
Right.
So one of the things I think is EPA mitigation project is going to produce about 1 to 2 million gallons of water a day.
Right.
And that's basically would be free water if we could use it. But KDHE says right now we can't.
Right.
So we're going back. We've gone to a letter to the secretary of KDHE and say, hey, look into this and see why, because other communities are doing it. It's been going on for many years. We need to see if we can't break through that. So we're working that side of it to try to see if we can't break that loose. But right now, KDHE says you can't use that water.
But separate from that, we still have some untapped water rights that if we wanted to expand the plant, we could. I just don't know how much. Do you have that answer? Because that's another part of this discussion is
we could expand it a lot,
increasing it.
But it's because you got the water rights, but it's a matter of, are you going to spend $1 million to drill another well, and for additional pumping capacity, and then how are you going to treat it? And you need some additional treating capacity. So you need new clarifiers, you need more sand pits, there's a lot of stuff you need to add. So yeah, it would be a pretty significant capital investment.
Yeah. So just to be clear, none of these projections have any sort of investment to that scale at all. So if that was desired or interested, we'd have to spend a lot more time investigating what those costs would be. Obviously, the board, CCOA, would have to decide if that was worthwhile for both cities. Then we'd have to take the step of analyzing what rate impacts it might have. But that's not currently on the table. Hasn't been discussed at all.
No, the only action item we have is we keep a rolling action item list. The only action item is to look at additional storage capacity. Right. Because that's the easy lift. That's
right.
That's the one you can do for
and it can help you with the spikes of irrigation.
Right. Yep. Yeah, slow down the spikes. Yeah, so we can store about 750 million gallons there, or not 750,000 gallons there. Okay, and but that's not enough water to really supply the cities adequately. So, but if we doubled that, maybe we have some. I don't know. Some modeling somebody has to do.
Part of that master planning.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right.
Hey,
sorry.
Ted.
Yeah.
Emily.
I remember it was like exactly 3 years ago when PEC kind of gave the overview of the water and sewer study, and it it was a big discussion about Integra at that time. I think you mentioned it. Is that where you're talking about where they kind of need to come back and think through this without that being part of the equation, or how much needs to be redone in terms of the study that you mentioned?
Not much. Thankfully, Trevor, who produced it, is still with PEC, who we contracted, and they kind of, after all the data is still good in there. It's just the assumptions. I think and now you're testing my knowledge. I think that we had like assumption A, B, C, and then we also had an assumption with no Integra. So I think a lot of that information is still good. I think the cleanup is more of just getting rid of a lot of the fluff and just going straight to, hey, here's what we're experiencing today. We've also grown 3 years worth of growth. So it's not a matter of, is it outdated and needs updated? It's more of what are we experiencing right now based on the projections they did 3 years ago, and how soon do we want to go? I can tell you, I would really like to, it's on my list, is to get with them and make sure we're tracking along the same way with all the development, because that's the number one. One of my biggest priorities is make sure when you turn on your faucet, water comes out. That's a big deal for us.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Good deal. Keep moving along here. So here we get to the water fund, total revenue and expense budget there. For current year 26, we had originally budgeted a deficit of 355. For 27, we're budgeting a deficit of 597. The reason that is we have a pretty healthy fund balance there. Trying to get that fund balance dropped down a little bit with the implementation of those new water main projects and keep those ongoing, continuing over time there. So are getting a little close to that 30% fund balance requirement there according to the comprehensive financial policy, which we'll talk about later. But I think we're in a pretty good spot right now to keep moving forward with those main replacements moving forward. Any final questions on water, or move on to sewer? It's under the bridge. There's it. Yeah, gotcha. Awesome. We'll jump over to sewer. For this presentation, we went ahead and increased those revenues 3% for the annual budget. The highlight from the expenditures here are we added some additional for the personnel for the classification and comp study. I'll talk a little bit about the chemicals. The 120,000 there for the chemical dosing program for the manholes along Rock Road. Maintain our wastewater system maintenance and repair line of 80,000, the updated CCUA payments. We need to build a fence around the 37th and Harding lift station for 27. And then we're still working on refining that long range CIP plan for sewer. Still identifying some projects, manhole rehab, potential project with the chemical dosing program would be a big part of that if we move forward with that.
You said you're putting a fence around the 37th and Harding station?
Yes.
Is there not a wall around there already?
No, it's a wooden fence.
It's a wooden fence. Oh, okay. Okay.
So what I'd like to do is go ahead and put a concrete wall like we have on all the other lift stations.
I
relocate.
Thought we had, but
Yeah.
I don't look at that very often.
No,
So
KDHE has been on us about replacing that fence for a year and a half now. So that's why I kind of got with Barry and said, I want to do it this way, relocate the gate on it and give us better access to that plant there.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so we'll touch on that chemical dosing program real quick. A while back, we did a analysis with Burns and Mac regarding the H2S levels in the sewer mains and the manholes. We found out they were producing high levels of that gas, which were corroding our manholes along this cold corridor. We did a pilot program, which is very successful. And then the estimates based off of us implementing the whole comprehensive chemical dosing program would reduce those corrosion rates by about 90% estimated.
Do we have monitors measuring that H2S?
I'll leave that for Ted and Marty to handle that one.
Not currently, we do not.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Currently, we are not monitoring that.
You're not monitoring H2S, or are you monitoring anything as far as the gases from the sewer there, the stations?
No, we're not right now. So
Okay.
it doesn't detect that. Only when they were doing the pilot study, we had them come out for 1 month, went through everything, checked all the manholes, and and then they quit.
Yeah, a
So
little history on this one. It's, we went for this, we had bad odors in the area. And then also we were having that high sulfide for the corrosion. And we did the pilot study. It worked really good. I believe the council told us to do a return on investment on this. And we started looking into it, looked at manholes, and frankly, all the manholes need redone, reconstructed. How do you say that, Marty?
yeah, redone.
Redone.
There is no reconstruction. They need
So
to be
now
pulled
it
out.
kind of put us at, okay, how do we get a true ROI? And of course, you need to evaluate all your manholes, which might be a $40,000 expense is what we got estimated. So essentially we're sitting at, and we're asking the council, do we want to continue on with the chemical dousing program, which will extend what we currently have based on the results? Do we want to do a study, an ROI study on it, which is like $40,000? Or do we want to not do it at all, even though we're experiencing odors, and go ahead and put the replacement of those 14 manholes into our capital improvement program? Or both, all three? That's kind of where we're at. So I don't want to, we were kind of at the beginning of the year when our results came in, we said, all right, let's do this. And then we started looking further and further and got further and further down the road. And now we need some direction from council.
Marty, just to clarify, so these are beyond rehab. I think normally you'd see manholes that start being corroded, just get coatings and rehabbed. These are full rebuild.
Yeah, they have been coated in the past. In 23, 24, Ann and I had UMC, Donlinger, HK Solutions come out and look at all the manholes. We went through everything, and every one of them said the same thing. The rebar's coming through the concrete's deteriorating. It's just a matter of time before we get a big concrete block come down and block one of our lift stations and one of the lines and backs up, and we won't know it until we have a problem. So there's 14 in question that need to be done. We talked about adding the chemical solution into that, and I was talking to Ted earlier. It needs to be done for controlling the odor and the H2S gases and stuff like that. But honestly, guys, I think we need to maybe table that for a minute and think about putting these manholes in. Once we get the manholes in, we introduce the chemical. That will save the new lines and prevent everything from being damaged. So that's my thought. Doing it for many years and seeing what's going on and stuff, I think the chemical additive needs to be put to the side. The manholes need to be put in, and then we need to move forward with the chemicals after that.
So we're currently not putting the chemicals in at the manhole points. We're only doing it at the lift station.
We're not putting anything in right now. We only did it when they were doing that trial. So
We've quit doing it altogether.
yeah, after that trial base was over, that was it. That's why we were going to come back to you guys, I don't know, coming up and ask for the trial to be introduced and see if you guys will be willing to spend that $100,000 a year to add the chemical. But like I said, I think be honest with you, I think we need to hold back on it. And, if they'll honor their price for a year or so.
I thought we were talking about buying a certain number of Gaylords of this chemical to be used continuously.
13 totes to be put into
13?
the system. So what I'm saying, if we do that right now and we spend that money and we add that chemical to the lift station, it's going to control the odor. It's going to help minimize the damage that's already there. But the damage is there, guys. It's really, it's bad. It really is.
I mean, I can kind of understand what you're saying, Marty, that you feel like that's throwing good money after, a destroyed manhole. It sounds like I would be in favor of moving forward with replacing the manholes, because it'd be a catastrophe if you had to start emergency bypassing a bunch of infrastructure because of a huge failure. Do you guys have any idea? Has anybody thrown together budgetary numbers for you to?
We didn't get that far after we had these people investigate it, come out and look at it with us on site. We're just like, we didn't say, hey, give me a quote on it. And let's go from here. We just said, we're going to stop and wait and see what's going on.
I mean, typically contractors are going to like to do all 14 because
Yeah.
they're going to set up a bypass to probably bypass 2 or maybe 3 manholes at a time.
Right.
And so that's going to be your best bets, just to put that out to bid, all 14, and do it all at once.
Actually,
Is
there's
kind of my
6
advice.
Actually, there's 16 because there's 2 up on Lasay that
Gotcha.
that need to be
Do
done
we,
too.
do we have any ROM estimate of what we're talking about dollar wise?
I cannot answer that.
No ideas. Okay.
I've been out of that game for a while.
Do you know what size manholes those are? Are they 4 or 5 foot?
I believe those are the 5-foot ones. Yeah, and it's 13.6 on one of them. Another one's 11'9" that goes up to 16 is, no, the deepest one is 20'3".
It's a deeper one.
Yep.
Yeah, they'll probably be precast. It's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
And this is an expense we can get an estimate before we close budget season, of course,
Right.
but we didn't want to.
I would say a big expense for the contractor, aside from the precast manholes, which is probably what they'll be, is the bypassing. And if they can do all 16, they can set up and stage it.
That's the biggest cost right there. That bypassing, that's everybody is,
Right.
You're paying for that.
Yep.
Donlinger was talking about, there's a new chemical that they can use so you have like your bottom section, that's where your pipes are coming in. You can leave that base section because most of the time that's not deteriorated like the rest of the cones that are going all the way up, because all your gases go upwards.
It stays underwater
So,
and it's not exposed. Yep.
So they can actually almost coat like the bottom one with this new stuff they have out now. I haven't really looked into it a lot, but that would save a lot of money by digging all the way down, removing all the cones and sections, and then going from there by leaving the sections. And that might not even be a bypass situation. That might be leaving it on, pulling the cones, and going from there.
They'd probably do a flow through bypass, and it would be a lot cheaper, a lot
Yeah,
less
they-
risk for
they would-
sure. I don't know about the finished product. They're probably talking about Armor Rock, which they've tested it in Wichita on a few projects, and
They
you
did
might
use-
call Wichita and ask them what they think of it.
Okay.
But
I'll-
I would support that. We probably just need to replace these if we want to be preventative, do the chemical on the backside. I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's my thought, just trying to save the city money without, throwing it down the sewer.
The sewer.
Down the drain.
So,
Okay. All right, Barry. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, I'll be staying in a while, so I'm glad I got to sit down for a minute. So same thing as the water utility. We used the modeling software. Here's our expenses, our debt over time. Here's the CIP plan for sewer as of right now. We do have an annual manhole rehab plan incorporated into the CIP plan, but not this major manhole replacement project that Marty was just talking about. So there's all those stacked together. The revenues is status quo. As you see over time, cash position drops past that reserve mark.
Marty, or Barry,
Mhm.
sorry, quick question. So the manhole rehab reoccurring, how many manholes are you kind of planning on in that to rehab per year? Do you have a number?
$100,000 gets us. I don't know. I don't know. the
I
exact
just was
number,
wondering
how
what
many.
what was the basis of the 100K? Did you have an idea of how many you've rehabbed for?
I haven't even really got into that much right now on that one. Just kind of budgeted for it so that we could have it in there to do what we need to do.
Gotcha.
Sewer's one of those funds, guys, and I'll tell you, CCUA had a huge impact on how we look at our sewer fund because we're building a $20 million plant right now, and we're in that. We're closer and closer to knowing exactly where we're going to be in the sewer on site on that debt service and even operations with CCUA. So our kind of model was try to hold back as much as we could just in case we needed that money. And now that it's becoming more and more clear, we can get that long-term plan set a little easier. Probably after this year would be our best bet because we're going through this first. As you know, we're testing every sewer sample, every lift station this year, and it plays a lot into our 6 supplemental or the CCUA agreement we just negotiated a year or so ago.
So we look at the overall outlook with our current 3% per year process, and once again, our cash position levels out over time, we stay well above that target there. But please keep in mind that CIP plan is barely developed out, so that's what's going to eat up most of that fund balance over the next several years. Then here's the overall outlook for the sewer fund. Got a pretty healthy fund balance there. We're looking to spend that down over the next several years. Then we're looking at SCADA system as well, upgrade for the our entire wastewater system and the manhole projects, and trying to line out those bigger projects now so we can get them on the books ready to go.
So this bigger manhole rehab project might be coming at a good time.
Yeah, no, we can more than handle it right now.
Maybe. You need to get some numbers.
Vaguely remember like a $500,000-$600,000 number being thrown around a year and a half ago. And we went ahead and budgeted in like around $900,000 this year for any kind of CIP item that comes up. So if you want us to start looking ahead and start looking at that process and get the ball rolling on that one, then we definitely can.
I think we should. I mean, if we got that kind of a problem with our lift stations, we need to get ahead of it before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and that kind of, again, I don't want to. It's really tough having we want to get this project going. It just seems there's other priorities that keep getting in the way with staff, and we're going to try to formulate that big plan. It's one of those things like we have 3 or 4 different projects, and who do I give it to? Because they're working on 3 or 4 projects right now. So I'm working it into the pipeline as fast as we can. It's just, it takes time especially as we go into our purchasing policy discussion. It's not just, I wish it was easy as calling 3 companies, getting 3 quotes and rolling, but there's a lot to a lot of these big sewer projects, and even the SCADA system update. There's a lot to that, and that's a big project. But I think, what we do with budget season is set priorities, and that's what I'm evaluating as we go through each fund and each department is, where's our priorities at, and then we attack those priorities.
Move over to solid waste. This is our trash recycling service that's provided by Waste Connections. We just renewed that contract here recently. It's pretty straightforward. 26 was an even budget year. Next year, we're going to drop that fund balance by $100,000 and transfer that little bit extra over to our streets fund for that street maintenance program for next year.
We do that every year, though, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we normally do 100,000,
Mm-hmm.
but since we have a little bit extra fund balance here, drop that back down.
Extra
we'll
100.
shift it over to
Extra 100.
streets. Yeah.
Okay.
Stormwater. Over the past couple of years, we've depleted pretty much all of our stormwater fund balance. We did 2 bridge projects last year. One was a reimbursement from KDOT. We got $180,000 back on that one of the $424,000 total that it was. We had a lot of project expenses from Rural Park that were paid for with stormwater funds, with the drainage ditches and the city portions of those projects that are going to come out of there. So just something to keep an eye on now. Our projected fund balance for next year would be $22,000. So I think it's a good time to look at the stormwater fee structure that we have. Currently, we charge $2 per residential unit and $4 per commercial unit. So the house out here out the window is paying half of what a 20-acre business is paying in our industrial park. So just something to think about when we're debating the cost of what it takes to manage all that stormwater runoff throughout the city.
Or is that something we're discussing tonight, or just?
Something to think about as of right now. Yeah.
Well, I know that Park City is charging CCUA like $200 a month for this stormwater fund. Okay, so just what you know about that.
Mhm.
Okay, and so we pay part of that ourselves because we're partners in there. But
Yeah.
so that model might be something we need to look at. I don't know if it's the right model, but something we might want to look at.
What recurring maintenance costs do we have for stormwater management?
really just drainage ditch
That's-
maintenance.
yeah,
That's been,
there are a lot of there's some tree clearing, Marty. You might step up. You can probably go a lot of that, but
Yeah, basically it's cleaning out ditches, cleaning out like trees, overgrown trees. When we have to haul stuff off to landfill or anything like that, we pay for that.
we did some culvert replacements.
Yeah, we did a lot of culvert replacements this year. There's a lot going on. We have a lot of manholes or a lot of inlets right now that are in the older section of town that are brick that need to be replaced. And last year, I think I had my guy do 2 or 3 of them, but it just takes time. That's money, mortar, brick, out of our funds to do that too. So usually costs us about $200, about $250 to do one inlet. And if we had somebody else do it, would be, $3,500 or more. So.
Marty, quick question. So is there any water quality stuff that Public Works does to some of our ponds that maybe we'd spend out of that too?
Yeah, we do like dyeing of the ponds whenever the green algae is apparent to everybody when KDHE comes to us. So yeah, we do spend chemical applications on that too. So
Trying to be preventative on stuff.
yeah, especially like now, as hot as it is.
Right.
So
Heat and runoff from fertilizers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a quick question. I know everything's a priority, but we've been talking about the rate structure for, I know at one point, Ted, you had talked about amount of impervious surface or tying it to what runoff you have. What actually needs to happen, or is that just all part of the sewer and water rate study?
that'd be, that's Barry. That'd be one way to look at it. There's several different options. Multiple cities do different things. They do it based off of acreage, impervious surface, overall parcel size. There's different ways to look at it. Just depends on which way you want to move forward with.
And from a lot of, we'd update our policy, our code. And then Barry, do you know how they measure? Is it just, there is some analytical work to be done to get the right billing for each individual property in our city. Barry might be able to have more information on that.
Yeah, normally residential is all flat rates. That's pretty easy. But when you're looking at the impervious surface, anytime something new comes in, we would have that on the permit information, right? The hard part is gathering that information for everything that's already out there. Luckily, there's GIS with great measuring tools. You measure the top of buildings, size of parking lots, everything like that, and it'll give you a good number pretty quick for ways to do that.
So you're saying to get this done depends on which route we go. It might just be on you guys to change what you charge residential and commercial, or it might be more in depth than that depending on how we go.
Yeah, whichever way we want to go, that'll give us a direction on how to change the rates in our software and all those things.
The easiest, if we wanted to adjust the rate structure, would just be to increase, $2 per month for residential and $10 per month for commercial. So we could go double that, or, that would be the easiest. And then the next step would be what's more mainstream with other cities, which is the impervious surface route. But that would require, legal work, as well as some of the little data collection with GIS and working with that project. But again, the priorities and how we want to structure that is going to be important.
Well, I guess one of the questions I'd have, and I'm looking at the stormwater fund, which you haven't got to that spreadsheet yet, but unlike the sewer system, sanitary sewer system, where we have all the deteriorating manholes, do we have any of those kind of I got you type of big projects we need to address on stormwater fund that we know of?
Not right now, I don't believe. I think we're pretty much caught up on everything in town. Like I said, there's a couple inlets that need to be done, restructured, but other than that, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, we got the Hillcrest area we need to work on, but that's not another project. And the reason I asked that question is do we have the funds to take care of what we're needing to do?
For this
And-
year, I believe we do, Mayor.
But what about it for future, as we go forward? Do we, because what the worst thing to do is say, okay, we're going along just fine. And all of a sudden we come up with this 100% rate increase because we didn't have the vision to look ahead. Okay. And that's why I'm not saying we're not. I just want to make sure we are.
No,
Okay.
I agree with that. I mean, from what I've seen since I've been here, we've been doing pretty good on it. So we've been pretty much using it all, right, Barry? By the end of the year.
Mhm.
So I think it's pretty close. This year we had a little more expenditure on one of the dirt roads over there. So, but
Okay.
we don't usually have that. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So
Okay.
I think we're in good shape.
Not to beat this to death, but, and I think we're running this utility probably the way people hopefully would expect. You charge, you do a big project, it goes down, go back up, find that other project. So I think it's very responsible what we're doing. It's just a matter of, like the mayor said, is let's think of every single possibility before, so we don't experience that big rate shock or any type of needs that we weren't thinking about.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think it's smart and wise to review what the other suburbs, Wichita's not a good comparison, but all the other suburbs, what they're doing so that we can kind of at least know that, because, we could build it, we're doing a great job, but if we keep doing a great job, costs are going up, and we also do have these occasional box culvert replacements, that's going to take revenue. And I guess I'd rather start saving up for that and not wait to have this situation where we have a budget adjustment because we had to do this box culvert replacement that's $200K. We know what it's generating every year. We can kind of project what it would generate with the rate increase. We could look at different options and decide, does it need a rate increase or not? And I would like to go that way and see how we compare to other cities too. My guess is we're probably not keeping up with the other cities, and the other cities are growing just like we are. And so they're trying to prepare better plans for maintaining their city. I'd like to be in that category of being ahead of it and planning it out and having the funds to do it.
And the best thing we probably purchased in the last year was that waterwork or Barry's analytics, because for me, a homeowner, when we look at our utility bills, we don't really separate them. We just say, oh, it's that amount.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
this platform will allow us to, maybe we adjust sewer in the future, but that total amount that people are paying, we want to always keep our eye on, because we service a lot of customers and none of them really zero in on maybe your water consumption, but that's about it. They just see it as a total utility bill, and each of these funds affect that total utility bill.
Right.
And Mayor, to be clear, we wouldn't bring this proposal without some kind of justification behind it regarding projects and things like that. What I really like the stormwater funds for is to reduce the overall potential debt the city would have to pay on a major project. So as you build cash in stormwater, we can use that cash to help assist with the design engineering part of a major road construction project that has a storm sewer element, or curb and gutter, which allows runoff to flow down the street, to reduce those non-construction costs that we wouldn't have to roll into permanent financing, which is paid by property taxes. So I think that's a good use of those dollars as well when it comes to those major projects like that. But once again, we wouldn't bring that proposal without those projects identified and justified behind it.
Okay. Thank you.
So for the budget, the remaining schedule, we'll have the first final draft of the budget on August 11th, which will also include our non-taxing funds, like bond and interest, streets, equipment reserve, CIP reserve, those items. And we'll get that published, have our hearing and budget hearing September 1st for adoption, and get it filed with the county, and then submitted to state. That's all for that. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah. Any other questions for Barry or Marty on any of this interesting things? Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate all the work you put into this, and it helps us understand a little better. So great. All right. We're ready to move on to the next item, comprehensive financial policy. So,
Yeah, and I'll kind of kick that off. Really, and we can spend some time on this, but I think the more pressing time to spend would be the purchasing policy, which is the next agenda item. One thing, that the two changes that I'm proposing on the comprehensive annual financial policy, which is kind of the governing document that governs the purchasing policy, is late in 2025, we increased the city manager's authority from 10,000 to 15,000. So this document reflects that, as well as cleans up some language. And this document was updated slightly in 2017, but I think it was originally produced before I was here in 2015. And it kind of says the city manager, with input from the director, will establish and enforce uniform purchasing policies. Well, we kind of figured it'd probably be best to just enforce the purchasing policy and then have the council adopt a purchasing policy. So that's why we're seeing this right now, is I want to make those two changes so we can get to the purchasing policy. Mayor Benaj did point out a few corrections, I think, and he can address them tonight, or Barry and I and him went over them, and we can adjust the current comprehensive plan with those adjustments, but they seem to be pretty clarifying or more technical in nature. So I'll leave it up to the mayor to decide. But if we want to spend time tonight, I would almost rather spend it on the purchasing policy itself than this document, but open for questions and any type of answers on this.
so the two bigger issues that I addressed, I did have an 11-point thing I sent to Ted and Barry, but the two big issues, one is the first paragraph says we're going to maximize revenue. And I don't think any governing body should have that as an objective, or that's not what we're about. We're about providing the best value to our citizens for the services that they want. Maximizing revenue is not even really a good business practice. Businesses, primary objective is to maximize shareholder wealth. That might be maximize revenue, but not necessarily. That all depends on different businesses. The other thing is that we're supposed to be reviewing this policy every 3 years, and I don't think we've been doing that. So Ted now has got that on his ticker file to make sure that happens. And so the other things that I had were primarily just questions of how we're doing these things, if we're doing these things. They weren't corrections to the policy at all. They were just, just questions about how this is being done. But those are the main things I had on it. So I don't know if anybody else had any comments or concerns and they brought up in there or had looked at.
I did have one question.
Sure.
Under section, I guess, part B, long-range financial planning, it mentions 5-year forecasts
Mhm.
and to be used during the budgeting process. And so I was curious if those forecasts, Barry, you presented some on our water funds tonight. Is that how we will see those forecasts, or what's the plan for that?
Yeah, so that's how we'll do the utility fund forecast moving forward with that modeling software. The general fund 10-year forecast, I think we touched on that a few months back, what it was, but it is a massive Excel spreadsheet with all that same data in that. It's just not very pretty like the utility ones. So
Gotcha.
we'll be
Thank you.
reviewing that from time to time. Yeah.
Are there any other questions on the financial policy? Emily and Greg? I don't see them. I assume they're both on. I've heard Emily a couple times.
I guess, Ted, just for clarification for everybody, we've talked about that 30% target, and that's in here. It's in our policy. You might just touch on why that's important for
Sure.
everybody to understand that a little better. I know it looked like on a lot of those funds, we're actually well above that, and we're trying to buy that down a little bit to get back closer to the 30%. But why does that matter?
So with the city of Bel Aire, and It's no secret we have a lot of land debt. When we go to issue new debt, we have a ratings call with S&P, Standard and Poor's. They rate our bonds. The higher the rate, the better interest rate we get. The lower the rate, the lower the interest rate, or the higher the interest rate we get. Did I say that right? The higher the rate, the rating, the lower the interest rate. The lower the rating, the higher the interest rate. When we set this policy up, it served us very well because when the Standard & Poor's people look at our books, they see the high debt, but yet they see our high reserve, so that it's a little more secured and we receive a better rating and saves us money in the long run. The way we have been doing it for years is the other element to this is 2008 hit the city really hard. We have a lot of, you're right, special assessment debt out there. But that debt is a GO bond, and GO bonds are guaranteed by the taxing authority of the city. So if we were to experience, and God willing, I hope we would never experience another 2008. And that's why we have letters of credit in place for developers. That's why we really monitor the size of the developments that go in just to evaluate our risk. But that higher reserve limit than usual will help us get through some lean years if needed. So there's a lot of strategic reasons for a growing city to have that target in their financial policies. And I would say it's served us very well since 2008 because we are able to, one, leverage for better rates in the future, and two, manage any storm that might come our way due to our growth cycle.
Thank you.
There was a minor confusion in the financial, in this policy, in that there's two 30% figures in there. There's a 30% of the assessed value, which is the maximum amount of debt that the city can hold. That there's also a 17 to 30% reserve value that is a percentage of the budget.
Right.
Okay, that we hold in reserve. So that was a little of a confusion for me for a while until I was able to go through all this and say, okay, now I know why those different numbers. They're about the same number, but they're different baselines. So,
Right.
So anyway. Any other questions or concerns on the financial policy? If there isn't, we'll just move on to the purchasing policy. We're not approving anything tonight. These are just discussions. So
Welcome back. It's now time for the purchasing policy. How do you want to do this? You just want to start section 1 and hit the highlights, or we want to go paragraph by paragraph, or what do you think the best way to do this is?
I say we start section 1 and hit the highlights,
Section one, hit the highlights.
and drill down where you see need fit, Barry.
Okay. So this revised purchasing policy, this is section 1 is just the general provisions. It outlines the objective of the overall policy, how we are to act in a manner when it comes to procuring goods and services throughout the city. It also talks about the self-imposed constraints. Although we do approve an overall expenditure threshold for the city, there's no reason we need to spend that much because we can. Well, we always need to be prudent with our funds and make sure we absolutely need what we are purchasing all year long. Familiarity with the policy is just making sure every staff who has the authority to purchase on the city's behalf is familiar with this policy and follows these guidelines. And the application is just that it's applied to everyone that's able to purchase within the city itself. And how we go about that process. Section 2 is definitions. I think after our first initial review, we found a few we needed to add. So we'll get those added in there and bring them back next time whenever we look at this again. But those are all the definitions we have defined for the policy. If you think of anything else we need to define, please let me know or reach out, or if you have any questions there. Section 3 is the purchasing authority and requirements for goods and non-professional services. So this section outlines the threshold of what a certain type of employee can spend on their own. Regular line staff employees, subordinate employees, they can spend up to $1,000 on their own. Obviously, they're going to have department approval because it's within their budget, but they have the ability to purchase up to $1,000 at a time. quotes are encouraged, but not required. So if they need to run down to Ace Hardware or Sam's or something like that, they have the authority to do that. Department directors authorize purchases above 1,000 up to 5,000. That doesn't mean that we can only purchase things within that range. We just have to have our signature or authorization on that purchase. We also need to plan our purchases above 5 and up to 15 to allow city manager time and city attorney time to review those items. Anything above 15, we really need to get started ahead of time so it gets through all of our newly revised procedures of how that process gets to council and approved by council and so forth. City manager, as we just talked about, authorizes purchases above the department director level at 5,000 and up to 15. Anything over 15 is presented to the council for review and potential adoption or approval. Governing body, obviously anything over 15 is going to come to you for approval at that point. Emergency purchases. These are highly defined in here, and I don't like to put a lot of procedures in a policy because it kind of ties our hands when we need to change policies or anything like that. But with the emergency procedure policy, part of that is if anyone or anything is going to go outside of this policy threshold here, I would like you guys to approve that to make sure it's in the policy itself, the procedure itself. So in this case, our city manager does have the authority to make some emergency purchases over $15,000 if it meets the criteria listed here within. Anytime that would occur, which I think is pretty rare, it would be written up in a report and presented at the next council meeting as a notification. Split purchasing. Don't split purchases to meet your threshold. If my threshold's 5,000, I shouldn't split an item into two $2,500 invoices just so I can skirt the system. If that's ever identified, you'll be disciplined according to our personnel policy manual. So,
And do we want to ask questions as we go? That might be
I think we should.
easier. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you have any questions, please interrupt Barry. And
I have a question on section 3.1.
Mhm.
The B, 1B.
Mhm.
It says purchases of less than $1,000 should be distributed equitably among suppliers. I don't understand the reason for that. If I'm going to go to Sam's Club for stuff, I'm probably going to spend all of everything I need to buy at Sam's Club.
right. So we don't have a lot of commercial development here in Bel Aire. But like if we had 3 mechanic shops, we're not just going to go to one mechanic shop every time. We're going to spread the work around equitably amongst any commercial vendors here in town. We're not going to put all of our money in one spot. We'll spread the wealth around.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what that means. Like, yeah, Sam's and Amazon, stuff like that. Yeah, you're going to put it all in one order. But for items like that, we like to spread that around.
So if we do one project at vendor A, we might do the next project at vendor B.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Is
if
that-
they provide the
that's
same
what this is
service. Yeah.
saying? Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Let's see. We talk about unauthorized purchases and prohibited purchases, and get into the Kansas cash basis law, which is mandatory. Obviously, we have to follow the Kansas cash basis law. That's in all of our contracts. We can't sign a contract that extends beyond the fiscal year without the acknowledgement that if we don't appropriate funding next year, we can get out of the contract. So if we don't put that in our contracts, then we're violating the cash basis law. So. And we can't obviously spend more than we have in fund balance at any given point in time.
One thing I didn't see in here was if we have an unauthorized expense, do we already have a different policy in place for how to handle those?
I believe we just have to take that up the chain of command, figure out the situation, and have it be reviewed by city attorney, city manager, all those things.
Okay.
Yeah. Section 4 is vendor selection. This part pertains to any items that we're going to be putting out for bid and proposal. We do have a section on our website that allows vendors, contractors to sign up for notifications whenever we put a bid or RFP or RFQ online. If they register, they can register with their email. Every time we upload that document to the website, they'll get a notification so they can check it out and potentially submit a bid in the future. Until we get that up and going, until that word is really out there and everyone knows about it, anyone that's doing one of these RFPs is highly encouraged to reach out to as many vendors as possible to get as many people responding to these solicitations as we can to really introduce that competition and get a fair price for the market.
Are you saying that system is not currently functional?
It's live now.
It's live now?
Yeah,
Okay.
we just recently tested out with our first RFP we did here recently regarding the
Okay.
water service lines, but worked the kinks out a little bit. So moving forward, it should be good to go.
Okay. So it's in its infancy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's kind of the art of this, is a lot of these processes are more stringent than what our current plan is. So we've been testing and trying to work on this for the last probably 6 months or longer to make sure that we follow the right processes and able to do it. So we've been trying to go above and beyond in preparation for this policy to come in place or something similar.
While adhering to the previous policy, we've tried to stay under the constraints of this newer policy at the same time as we run through these new procedures with all of our purchasing.
What was the purpose of making a new policy more stringent than the old one? Did we find problems that needed fixed, or what's the reasoning behind all this?
Less interpretation and more guidance for uniform application.
Okay.
Essentially. Irresponsible vendors, this highlights that we do have the ability that if a vendor does not adhere or complete the work as stated in a contract, we can declare them an irresponsible vendor. They do have an appeal process. They can come to city management or city council to appeal that decision, but that is in there in case that ever does need to happen. I know several cities that have this in their policy. I've reached out to them. None of them have really gone through that process, but it's there if we need it.
My only question about that is that in our contract language to our suppliers?
I'll let Maria handle that one, but I'm pretty sure if they're not adhering to the contract as stated in the terms or in the solicitation as the scope of work, then yes.
Well,
can
yeah,
not
but-
use them as a
but-
vendor,
My point is, and you know this because you probably saw my email earlier, but you can't put a policy out there, an internal policy out there that says the vendor will do this X, Y, and Z unless it's in the contract with the vendor that they're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can't do a callback or anything else if it's not in the contract. Right. Your policy is not a contractual document unless you make it one. I mean, I guess you could, but that'd be odd.
Maria has been, our city attorney, has been amazing at creating these new terms and conditions and mandatory terms and conditions for all these contracts. You'll see a lot of comparisons and references in this policy that are also in those terms and conditions.
Yeah.
I think the more important thing is to make sure that the RFP, the solicitation, has all that information in it, because if a contractor or a vendor bids that and then turns around and is trying to negotiate a contract, that can cause a lot of heartburn.
Yep.
And so that's
very
probably
true.
more important to make sure those two are aligning. And I know that you're doing a good job of doing that. So
Working on that process for the past couple of months. I think we're to the point where the contract will be ready as the solicitation goes out.
Nice.
So it becomes super efficient once bids are submitted, goes through management and legal review to ultimately come back to council. Should be a pretty streamlined process moving forward.
That's a lot harder than people think.
Yeah,
it is.
Mary, Maria and I are both looking at each other like, oh, yeah, it's a painful one.
Once you have that standard template though figured out and in place, it's easier going forward, because then all your vendors and contractors know what that standard is. And more, even better than that, if a copy of the template is available as a part of the bid documents, said vendor or contractor can tell you, hey, here's our bid and here's an exception that we're taking, so that you know that in advance.
right.
That is how it is now designed. So it all should be out there ready to go.
Perfect.
Section 5 is just that competitive seals bidding process. We'll put the notice out. We'll schedule the bid opening. If it's solely based on price, like a lawnmower or something like that, we'll schedule the bid opening here at City Hall. We'll have a couple of representatives there, along with the department head that led the RFP process, to open the bids and evaluate. It outlines the whoever the individual is creating the RFP needs to go through their specifications and technical specs and make sure they're putting in there what they need to get the job done for when it goes out to bid. Bid evaluation, the evaluation criteria will always be set forth in the request or the proposal, so that way everyone knows how the bid's being scored and being graded. Tie bids, we can pick either one. Late bids not accepted. Bid award with the reasonable promptness. We can always reject any and all bids at our discretion and go back out if we want to. The competitive sealed bidding over 15,000 that requires council approval. Those are the steps it takes to get through that process. Item B under 9 is the one I wanted to touch on. In here, purchases totaling more than 15,000 but less than 50,000, in which the item is in the approved budget and the low bid is recommended, shall be included in the consent agenda item for approval by the governing body. I think that's just another one of those efficiencies we can have when we're creating the agenda and then presenting here every other Tuesday or the first and third Tuesdays. Said if we approve a lawnmower in the budgeting process, we're bringing that mower, we're accepting the low bid, we can just throw it on consent. We'll be good to go. It can always be pulled off if you have additional questions, but for the sake of time and efficiencies, I think that's a neat idea to try that out. Yeah. Budgeted purchases over 50,000 will always have a regular agenda item. Non-budgeted purchases over 15,000 shall always have a regular agenda item. And all contracts for construction or infrastructure will always have a regular item as well. So none of those will be on consent. Section 6 is the RFP process. If we're not going out specifically on a price for something, we're needing a proposal regarding services or anything like that. We'll just do the RFP process here. Section 7 are items not subject to the competitive bidding, like utility bills, annual software maintenance fees. Like we just did our new software. We don't want to bring that service agreement back to you every single year of our 5-year contract. Those are excluded. If it's already been bid out in a cooperative purchasing program, or it's on a GSA surplus website for buying desk equipment, anything like that, those are the type of items that are excluded from the competitive sealed bidding process.
Very quick question.
Mhm.
I haven't seen anything in here about pre-qualifying as a contractor or service provider or a vendor. Is there anything in our policy, the new one, that requires any sort of pre-qualification process? And where I'm going with this is not just vetting our vendors, but also having an ability that if a vendor were to fail at performing their duties, that we have a process in place that's very clear. It's like you're going to be, for lack of a better term, not eligible to bid our projects for the next year or whatever that might be.
Right.
Is there anything in this policy that you're presenting that has anything about that?
There's no pre-authorization in here, but that's why we workshop these things. If you want to see
Sure.
that in here, then by all means we can add it in here.
So where it came up in my head was section 6, specifically for RFPs, because under evaluation, and there's probably another spot where you talk about low bid. If we were to add anything for just making it simple, we could list something, obviously got to go through Maria to figure out how to legally say it, but under evaluation, we talk about criteria to determine acceptability, experience, ability, qualities. There's a laundry list of things there. I wonder if there's just a couple terms we can add to that gives us flexibility to include, hey, if you have a pending claim against us or vice versa, or something that we can add to what the evaluation might include this too, not just the price or not just your proposal, but we need to know what legal things you have going on. That's pretty common in that business. We deal with that a lot when we submit proposals for work to other cities. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as something that maybe we ought to consider putting in our evaluation. Don't want to overcomplicate it, but maybe it's something we can just add some language in somewhere.
I think that's a good point. I kind of overlooked that because it's the header title of that is request for proposal or request for statement of qualifications, but then it doesn't address request for qualifications. So it should address that, but it doesn't. So that's a good point. I didn't catch that one.
And so I don't know, there could be multiple sections that impacts. That just triggered me thinking of that as a potential evaluation item. So I'd like to see something at least something we could consider. I don't know that I have the answer, but I just threw out some,
Authorization process for vendors.
something.
Pre-authorized
Again,
vendor
I don't
to
know if
bid.
we need a pre-qual. It's more
pre-qual.
hey, if this has happened, this could have an impact on.
But we do that, okay? But it's not
It's
in
not
the
in this,
document.
right.
We've done it. We've done it a couple of times. We did it with the engineering process for 45th Street.
Right.
We had requests for proposals. I think you were on the
Yeah, and those were
qualification team of
Right.
that
I
one.
was.
But
We
we
wanna
just failed to
memorialize
put
it.
it in here.
Right.
We just need to get it in here. Yeah. Mike?
I was kind of curious too about if there's any scorecard we keep on vendors of like, once they do a job, how well they do. You know, it doesn't have to be like huge, but like just taking notes on how it was, or maybe that's already done informally.
Not sure on that
It's
one.
not done formally.
Is there any informal staff process that occurs?
And mainly when I look at that, it's more of, it would be all informal, I guess I would say. Mainly, you know, when we complete a project, we discuss it and how it goes, but maybe something we look at again, the more formalized process, the more time. So I
Sure.
think there's always a balance of that. And one question for Councilmember Dean, and you have some experience bidding, the pre-qualified process, does it inhibit you or a company from submitting a bid ever? Or what type of you see what
Not
I'm
in
saying?
my-
Like we want to strike that balance to get as many bids as we can, yet qualified bids as we can. Is there a certain metric that is too far? That I think that's maybe more of a research project for Barry and I, what other cities have for pre-qualifications and what has inhibited them from getting bids.
Yeah, I don't know the direct answer. I have a gut feeling of what normally limits people. It's usually they're just too busy. They have a lot of other work. That's usually the limiting factor for most companies. Not saying that's everybody. Wichita's is very easy. And so I don't think that we need to make some onerous thing. But if we were to put some formal process in place, it may help with maybe what Mike's alluding to with like tracking how certain vendors or what frequency are they bidding or how often are they, it may help you internally to just get a feel for how many vendors aren't submitting and contractors are out there that aren't submitting. If we made people get pre-qualified, we would have that a healthy list, probably, it would be my guess, but you probably wouldn't have more participation necessarily. So I guess I don't really have a great answer, but generally it's the market. It's market driven. When people have a lot of work, they're busy and you have less bids. That's just how it works. And prices usually go up when that occurs. And then vice versa happens too. But I don't know. I don't think we need to make it onerous. I was just trying to figure out how do we formalize, our bid documents better where people know they're being judged. Yes, we want low responsible price. We want a good proposal, but what you've done in the past will be taken into account. And when we do proposals all the time, it asks us, do you have any litigation? Do you have this? You have to answer those things as part of your proposal. Otherwise, you're considered non-responsive. So I just think we should figure out how to put that in here and require that so that we have those at our disposal as a decision-making process. Like you said, Mayor, we've done it. It's just been on these one-off projects. And if we're going to update a policy, I think we should put it in there.
Well, and I've made similar suggestions to what Mike suggested that and I think we need to look at that better. A couple ways you can do that. You can look at a postmortem project review and document how the project went, what good, what went bad, and that kind of thing. You can do. I've seen people do tracking data, 12-month average tracking data of quality and delivery performance. There's a multiple tools you can use out there to track how vendors are performing. At the end of the day, you got to figure out what works best for this organization that is the least burdensome and gets them a value to that tracking system.
Yeah.
Okay.
My gut is that our staff knows informally
almost always
what are our vendors and whatnot that are our go-to people we like to work with, people that do good quality, all those things. I get that. But as we grow and as our staff grows, it would be better to have something in place
Well-
that's a little bit more formalized.
And okay, so if I may, Goddard had a ton of turnover in a very short period of time. And that was driven by a quasi coup situation, if you will. But what happened was a lot of tribal knowledge left with that. And so whatever, like, I mean, I got comments from my family that the fireworks show this year wasn't near what it's been in the past. It's like, I mean, they don't really, they're like, I don't know what changed, but
Wasn't Bel Aire quality?
it was not as good as Bel Aire. And I'm going to make sure they know that the fireworks went northeast. So,
Okay.
but yeah, usually it's a really good show, but there's things that if it is tribal knowledge and the tribe leaves, then yeah. So it's good to have some notes somewhere.
Yeah, and I guess so we introduced the scorecard or that, but then we have to go back to irresponsible vendor and make those scorecards mean something. And that's what's tough. It's, and you're very right, I think there's many council members on here that's been on here a long time. And when we accept a low bid from a XYZ company that we know a year ago didn't do a very good job, that's where that discussion can happen too, is just the council, when accepting the bid, say, you know what, I don't want to accept this bid. I want to go to the second lowest bidder, and how that process sets up. So it's kind of a Pandora's box in a way where, yes, we can set up a scorecard system, but what does that mean in the end of the day? And how do we enforce that meaning in a different way?
So, and I don't want to stay on this topic too long, but one of the disadvantages that we have is we don't see that day in and day out hustle and bustle that you have to deal with as the staff, and so our perception of a particular supplier can be skewed. Okay. Having a documented process of evaluation of those suppliers, we see that when we see the next proposal, then we say, okay, yeah, this is what happened. Now we know it. We have a document that says it. Without it, we're kind of relying on our own memories, which aren't very good because we're not involved in a day in and day out. So it puts us at a disadvantage not having some metric out there, some tool. And I'm not defining the tool. I'm just saying we need to come up with a tool that works, that gives that information.
Would it be better to define what type of vendors that tool would be used for? Would it be primarily for big projects? Or are we talking every vendor we have that we buy paper from, or
Well,
sign
okay,
a contract
so
with to buy water
all right,
meters or whatever?
so
So
oftentimes when I was doing consulting and audits, say so can't consult when you're doing audits, but so there's got to watch that line there. But oftentimes I would say, look at the top 20%, top 80% of your buy, which is usually about 20% of your suppliers, and just measure them. Okay. So that you're not spending all the time with the nuts and bolts that don't make a difference to anything. And that's just one tool. Another tool could be, and I think I talked to Ted about a company I audited up in north part of Kansas that did a postmortem review of every project, but they were just a project-oriented company. They would set up a system for a company, and they go in there and put it in, install it, and then they did a postmortem review of it. That was their evaluation process, and it was. And that, so maybe that's a way you do it, especially with these projects like roads and those kinds of things, the bigger ones that come before council, and say, how are these doing? You got Chapel Landing 8 when it's completed. We do a postmortem documentation of how that project went, what went right, what went wrong. So that's available next time we look at that supplier for something else.
So I'll add to that. I'll also say that, not discounting the size of the project or the frequency, but not all problems are created equal, right? And not all of them I guess the thing I see about memorializing something, even if it's just a very simple, hey, these are the 5 parts that we believe really make or break our projects, right? List out those bullets and grade them A, B, C, whatever. We're not going to willy-nilly just decide this contract, they're low bid. I think what you have to do is get in the habit of building that record up so that you can decide, hey, now is the time to decide, guys. Like we can't let them bid this. Like we can't just pull them from the bid. Like we letting them bid the project, we're going to have to accept it. Like I don't think we want to get in the business of making that decision on a case by case. We want to build up something that lets and empowers the governing body to decide, hey, we're just not sending that out. Like they're just not going to be able to bid our projects. We've had enough problems with them. And I don't think you're going to have that happen very often, but that's the reason why you would have a tool like that, not to pick and choose, but to have a very well vetted process that's defensible, that you've just said, hey, we're done. It's costing us too much time and money to deal with this vendor. That's why you would want something like that. Otherwise it's very wishy-washy and it's very, he said, she said, and that's what I would think we'd want to avoid. So I don't know. We have to decide for ourselves how much effort do we want to put into that. And then we got to keep it basic, repeatable, because I do think it'd be important to do it on all the larger engineering and construction projects at a minimum. Not every vendor, but the big dollars that we're spending. But I think we probably need to spend some more time on that aspect of it.
And I appreciate the comment. And I think that's something very doable. I always have to maintain where my staff's at. And 5 points, start the data process, and then review every year to see if we want to incorporate that type of structure into some actionable items. But you're right. If we never do it, nothing's going to happen. So.
Okay.
Let's see, next section is change orders. We change this up a little bit to allow, once again, for more efficiency and flexibility here. So moving forward with this policy, any project under $1 million, our city manager would have the authority to approve any change orders in single or aggregate up to $25,000. Once they were approved, they'd go on the following city council agenda, just like those unbudgeted items we talked about earlier for approval. They could be pulled off if you want to talk about it. If not, leave it on there. Any project over $1 million, that authority bumps up to $50,000 for the change orders. Once that total aggregate amount is hit, then every single change order from that point becomes a regular agenda item at that point. Marie's done a great job with our new change order documents. So every time, if you've noticed, a change order is presented, the entire history of the project is on that change order. So it's very easy to track that aggregate amount if they're coming in at $1,002 change orders, whatever. And that also does go through a finance review, management and legal review before it does come to the council agenda. So that process is already in place to track those small increment change orders over time.
The difficult part on this and why we're leaning more towards is every time you guys approve a project, it's a not to exceed. So there's always going to be, not always, but usually there's $1,000 change order, a $1,500, the little one. And that puts staff in a little bit of an awkward position. And we've been mulling through this without this clear direction. It's, well, I have a $15,000 budget authority. Can I go ahead and sign this so I don't demobilize? No, we should probably put it in front of the county. It puts us in that awkward position. And this clarifies exactly what we're looking at. The numbers can change. You guys can say, hey, Ted, we only want 15,000, but what we modeled this off of, I believe it's Andover, or is this Derby?
It's kind of Frankenstein.
But this is a similar structure what Andover does, a growing city that allows it kind of a smoother process. It also probably more transparent than we've ever been because it's all going before the consent agenda instead of, a $1,500 change order being signed and you guys, we'll see it in the AP ordinance, but that's a little harder to.
So it's surprising when change order 8 shows up on the agenda.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Without seeing 7654321. So this process allows 100% transparency on all those change orders.
It's also very closely mirrors what we did for 2026 road improvements. It
that's
just makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Other than the dollar amounts, there Any change order that significantly alters or increases the scope will automatically come before council. If it's under $1 million, exceeds 25,000, it'll come straight to council. Over $1 million, over 50, it'll come straight to council for the change orders. Emergency situations, similar to earlier, this is for the emergency situations regarding the projects. The city manager does have the authority to approve those, but once again, it will be reported on and notification to the governing body and reported on at the next council meeting.
Hey,
So-
Barry,
Yeah,
just to clarify, those change orders would be in the consent agenda within the appropriations or a separate item?
there'd be a separate item in the consent agenda.
Okay.
Yep. All right, section 9 is our general instructions. Number 1 here is the local business preference. I really like this idea. If we have multiple bidders, one of them is local, and they are not the low bid, we can still select them as long as they are within 1% or 1% or $500, whichever is higher of the maximum bid difference of $1,500 over the lowest bid. So if we had a local vendor who was $1,400.99 more than the overall low bidder, we could select our local vendor over the one outside city limits or outside Wichita or Citrus County. So try to keep as much of that money as close to home as possible.
One question I would have about that is what constitutes a local vendor? What constitutes a local vendor? Metropolitan area? City of Bel Aire? I mean, how do you define that?
So I think it's,
Could be.
Yeah, it
Oh, it
does
says
say
it there?
corporate limits of
Okay.
City of Bel Aire. I was going to chime in on this.
Portland City Bel Air, yeah.
So this one sounds good, but the unintended consequence of this kind of very specific prescription is that you stop getting bids. Let's just say there is a Bel Aire business and it's
Mhm.
great and we get a lot of business. They do a lot of business with us. And there's 2 really reputable companies in Wichita that they used to do business with us, but they stopped bidding our projects because they know said business is, every time they're within 1% is getting it. I like the idea in theory, but I am against this. I don't think it does us any good. And I think I think we have a lot of businesses that do business with us in Wichita. And so if we were going to do anything with this, I'd want to widen it a little bit more probably. Just my 2 cents. I just don't.
Maybe
I
you should
just
say the
don't like
metro
it.
area or within Cedric County or something. I
I'd
don't
either
know, what
nix
the-
it completely or I would widen it.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents on it.
Well, it does say preference. You can select them as the winner, or you can still always go with the low bid. Either way, it's just saying the option's there if you would like to keep the local vendor within the city limits. But if you want to, as soon as we branch out of city limits, we might as well just open it up because there's enough vendors in Wichita, Citrus County area to meet most of our needs already. So.
Yeah, Barry, I was gonna say, I think I tend to agree with Councilmember Dean to maybe just get rid of that, even though it's kind of nice in theory.
If they're doing a bid or they're pricing something, they're not going to have any clue if they're within 1% of the next bid, right?
Yeah,
So on a practical note, they may be able to deliver a service better, cheaper, or more timely just because they're literally just down the street or right next to where we need it. So it seems like kind of extra. I am for. I hope that we're sending bids out to the new gun shop in town if there's any need for that, but to arm our police force if it makes sense. But 1% is kind of a moot point, anyways. If it's 2%, then they don't get preference. It's just like, okay.
1% up to a maximum of 1,500. So it's a very small threshold. So it's 1% of Ted's purchasing authority.
Yeah.
Right. So anything that would be coming to council.
Oh, if it's purchasing authority. Okay.
Yeah. 1% of, $1,500. That'd be.
Oh, so that could be sizable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the situation arose where we had we had 2 quotes for a mower. One was here at a couple miles down the road, and one was west of Hutchinson. The Hutchinson dealer was $150 less. So we got to take the low bid for spending 3 hours going to get a mower, pick it up and drive it all the way back because they are the lowest bidder.
Well, don't we already reserve that right though to accept bids that are at our advantage? So if it was, we wanted the mower faster, couldn't we use that as a reason?
Or just not to spend the mileage to get it. I mean, where's
Well,
that?
that goes to your destination fee. It's part of your purchasing price, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the cost of delivery.
Yeah, because right.
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have delivered it, that would have changed that.
Right.
Surely.
Or the fact that you have to go get it is still a cost that you should factor into the price.
And I think staff does do a decent job when they recommend a certain thing. There's been times where we didn't pick the cheaper pump or the cheaper, and it was because Marty said, "Hey, here's why I want this pump. It matches the parts we have. It's to our advantage to use this. We need it quicker.
Well,
they can get us to it quicker."
Well, I mean, what if we just had in there that we're going to take into account mileage at this rate? I mean, that puts locality, accounted for.
We could do something like that, but it'd be on a case by case basis in those situations. So
I don't know.
we'll get rid of that for right
A
now.
lot of weeds.
It's a
I-
local-
do we
it
have
We're in the
seems
weeds,
too
but-
it seems too complicated. Let's just get rid of it. That's my vote.
Yeah.
Or that would be my
We
advice.
can delete it until we run
Okay.
into a problem with
Okay.
Bel Aire's fully built out.
That's fair.
Other considerations, cost such goods or services plus shipping and handling exceeds that allowed by we'll have to change several of those things. A few other things reference that local business preference in there, so we'll make those edits. Item 3 here, city attorney review. All agreements or quotes for goods and services over 15,000 must be sent to the city attorney for review and preparation and purchase contract. Purchase contract will then be placed on the city council agenda according to the applicable requirements within the policy. Any questions on that one? Want to get some feedback on that one?
This is the one we kind of need some feedback from council, or I'd appreciate, because, if you're good with me, anything, it all goes back to like, if you're good with me purchasing under 15,000 without attorney review, that's what this is saying. So that's the conversation we want to have.
Okay. Who, is it best for me to address Barry? Or Ted? Okay. Well, how many of our purchases are falling below 15,000? Again, we don't need to create additional procedure, and we also don't necessarily need to create a bunch of attorney review if it's a pretty straightforward purchase. How much staff time efficiency can we save by streamlining for purchases within your purchasing authority?
Have to do some
Huh?
data gathering for that one. See how many are under that authority.
Yeah, this is just more of,
Renting a rock roller for the street at $5,000, or buying some motors for an HVAC unit, or getting InfoSend to send out an extra group of letters to our residents to notify them about backflow, like those type of items under that $15,000.
But it's all within our budget anyways, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of that can be done just by a template that's already just, this is XYZ, how we do business. I mean, it's,
Right.
if you use purchase orders, which I know we don't have a purchase ordering system, but if you use purchase orders, you can just make terms and conditions as an attachment to your purchase order, and it just goes out with all the purchase orders, and it's always required. So, I mean, it's that simple. You have to develop the document, and RIA has done a really good job of creating those templates for that purpose. So I'm not saying we're deficient there. It's just what is the review here? I don't know what this would be. An additional review is just make sure that the conditions are right, that we have all the terms and conditions in there. We have a good solid statement of work, and we're good to go.
So the thing that you're going to run into, and I agree with you, like if we're up to speed and Maria's updated everything, and maybe every couple of years she's doing a little bit of a review and brushing up our standard contracts. I'm guessing most of this is like bigger corporations we're buying stuff from that have their own term sheet. They send it to us and we have to mark it up and then they
Man,
send
Tyler,
it
you're
back.
hitting the nail
And
right
they
on
send
the
it
head
back
right
and
now.
back and forth, and
That
back and forth.
happens.
And I know that happens a lot because I deal with it because we do that. I do the contracting as a business, so I get it. That's my guess is what you're hitting on here is we have a lot of those types of companies we're doing business with, and we have to decide: are we willing to let Walmart or Amazon or whatever big corporation, are we willing to eat their terms or not?
And it puts staff in a little bit of a bind because Maria does an amazing job with contracts, and that's what you want her to do. But it also, on the other side, you hit the nail right on the head. It's one of those. What's your direction, council?
Yeah, that one's a tough one because they all feel one off, and they probably all change
Well-
because they all have corporate lawyers that update it every year. And
And in your world, this may be a little different than in a city government world,
Sure.
but my gut tells me that we deal with the same people day in and day out, and it's unusual that you have somebody you've never dealt with before. I mean, once in a while it happens, maybe once or twice a year,
right.
but once you work that out with a particular engineering firm, okay, and you say, okay, these are the exceptions we're going to do. Okay, that's what we're going to do with that engineering firm every time, and it's just going to be that way.
Right.
Okay, we know that, and we'll be okay.
Until
It's
one of
just-
the parties decides.
Once in a
to-
while,
no.
you're going to have that exception of the company that you haven't seen ever, and now you got to deal with that one.
I don't know. I guess the question is how frequently or how much of that time is being spent on things that are, like you said, under 15,000.
Well, like one-off stuff.
Yeah. Because there are smaller parts and pieces. Maybe you do buy only once or twice a year from said vendor. Or maybe there's a new one because Marty couldn't find the old guy went out of business or whatever reason.
That's happened.
What if it's an aggregate of if the aggregate's actually over 15,000? Because if it's a repeat customer that we deal with regular, that makes sense to have it in order if that's maybe what you already do. But if it's a one-off thing and you go rent something and they say, well, if you get it stuck in the mud and we have to retrieve it, it's $200 an hour for us to come pull it out or something like that. I mean, like, okay.
Hey, Maria, will you remind me of a concrete example? Wasn't there some issue like with uniforms or something that ended up a contract that caused a bunch of issues?
So was there a contract with with uniforms that had an issue?
I want to hear this.
Seems like maybe.
So, yeah, you can't get into the specifics of a particular contract in an open meeting. That's true.
That's a
Well,
really,
I meant more generally an example where not doing this caused an issue.
right. That's a really good comment, Councilmember Hamburg. Every council member, the city manager, and the director of finance, you're all correct. Great job, everyone. There are some agreements that are easy. It's a one-time purchase, a mower, a piece of equipment, and I totally understand where staff, let's get moving and get that done. And then you have another agreement where it appears to be very innocent and naive, and it turns out that there's going to be terms involved. And to respond to Councilmember Hamburg, instead of a 12-month agreement, it actually turns out to be a 5-year agreement, which had some terms and some promises involved, which unintentionally didn't go in front of the governing body, and that creates issues. But it was not intentional. It just, nobody knew. And then you have another agreement that will involve maintenance of a piece of equipment. That equipment could be low risk, it could be high risk and involve the water for the city. And when you have a contractor that says they want their liability limited to the amount that was used for that service, someone may not understand what that might mean, because if something went badly, then unfortunately an agreement to those terms could affect the city later on. So, I mean, we have a wide array of purchases here. I think everyone in the city wants to be respectful of each other, how to handle it, how to move forward, how to tell department heads. But And I think that's what probably director
there-
and manager are mentioning.
We could go over hundreds of examples tonight. I mean, we have a pool
Sure.
guy,
Let's
a
not,
pool guy that wants to repair some pool tile. Do we, and the hard part too is it doesn't say the city, like, if I'm looking at a contract under 15,000, I say, you know what, Maria, you probably need to look at this. There's an element of that too. Like, I can make a judgment call when I got something in front of me that says, this might not be the best.
This has a potential. Yeah.
It doesn't remove the risk though. That's the thing, is I might miss things too that Maria is going to pick up. That's really what we're talking about here, is what level of risk does the city want to take? Is it 15,000? Is it 5,000? Is it $1? I mean, that's what this question's all about, is what
there-
risk.
Is there anything that would keep us from setting up and just using, basically put any contract that you get through an AI screener of like, hey, like screen this against, just as a once over, especially if it's a lower amount, just to see if it catches anything, and set it up to do a deep dive for you, where that doesn't necessarily smoke your desk time on messing with small stuff, but it'll triage it.
One thought I had was maybe we settle on what the number is, but my suggestion would be, just from your example, is all maybe you do have to do a once over, because if it's a multi-year contract of any kind, it has to go through that review. Or maintenance operation, or maybe there's a couple other things we need to think through, what would trigger it, not just the number, but what other things, buckets you would want to triage it with. Yeah. But I don't know that we're going to have the answer tonight, but I think that it seems like there's some other parts that you could think through.
Yeah. And so, maybe it's Maria. I mean, maybe there's some triage points that you say, hey, if any of this pops up, I want to see it.
Help manage some of the risk. It won't eliminate it, but maybe reduce risk.
There's just such a big difference between a purchase of a one-time purchase of a good
Right.
versus an ongoing commitment of services, whether it's 12 months or more.
Or something that's installed by somebody else.
It's just growing. There's just so much business, and no one wants to slow down work, but then nobody wants to risk potential liability for the city and governing body.
Your mic's not on, Maria.
Oh, whoops, I'm so sorry. There's just there's so much business going on, Councilmember David, and nobody wants to slow down the productivity of staff, and then nobody wants to increase the liability for the city or governing body.
Marie, you used some words that sparked a thought.
Oh, no.
So you said there's a big difference between one-time purchase of a good versus a piece of equipment that requires maintenance or a service that goes on for a contracted period of time. Could that be part of the criteria, maybe? Rather
Yes,
than
that
just a
could.
monetary value?
That could, and I know Director of Finance and Manager are trying to open this dialogue to get your opinion so that they can go further in the next steps and create that additional language. So I think all of this is very helpful.
This is really just what we want to do, to draft something that we as an organization, internal organization, can say, yep, this is your lane, my lane, let's go. Because a lot of times I'm looking at Marty, it is that $2,000 either rental piece of equipment or part he needs, and we're at somewhat of a standstill because who's on first type situation, and we just need that type of clarity so we can better serve the citizens, but yet better protect the citizens' money. It's not us versus them at all. It's more of give us your threshold, guys. And I think Mike said it a while back, or Councilmember Proctor said it a while back, is at what point are we buying more insurance that's holding up operations? And that's really what we're asking, is at what point are you guys comfortable with, Ted, make the best call you can. If you screw up, we understand. And a lot of it is talking multi-year contracts. I can see any multi-year contract we're going to give to Maria. We can put that clearly in the purchasing policy, but if it's a part, or maybe Marty needs a second opinion on something right now, are we going to take the chance with my initial review and sign?
Maybe it's a two-parter then. Like, let me make a suggestion. If we want two limits, even we could have one for just goods and one for services, and maybe you qualify it even further if it's any engineering, contracting, equipment rental, like list it, right? The main big ones that you deal with every day, right? For public works needs, and then the contracting and engineering efforts that are on significant things that could break and could cause issues with the city. Maybe it's two parts. Maybe there's a lower threshold, or I don't know which way I'm going here, but if you break it apart, make goods one and make that limit higher, maybe, and then make another on all of these items. All contracts have to be fully reviewed by the city attorney. I don't know. That's just a thought.
I think we probably have given you quite a bit of ideas. Maybe give you a chance to think through some of this and come up with a proposal, which you think would work best, because we'll be here till midnight if we keep this up.
Sure.
Not that anybody's giving bad input. It's just that we just need to find closure here.
The struggle we've had coming up with this paragraph right here for a couple months now is, how do we word it in a way to where a new staff member picks us up, reads it, and says, "Oh yeah, I can buy that."
Yeah.
And just move forward, because that's how we want it to be, right?
Right.
So we'll put together some options and bring back.
We all share in that struggle.
No. Okay, next section is budget. Goes over the annual budget approvals process. How the governing body sets the overall expenditure limits. City manager carries out the priorities given to us by the city council, utilizing the annual budget components, department directors and their individual budgets, et cetera. Disposal of city assets. That's just a more outlined process than what we previously had in place. If it's over 2,500, get with the finance department, make sure it's not on the fixed asset list. If it is, we'll remove it from the list and get it disposed of properly in the software as well. Section 12 is all the ethical standards. Talking about employee conflict of interest, substantial interest in businesses, employee disclosure requirements. They need to notify the finance director if they have any substantial financial interest in a business that the city is potentially doing business with, et cetera, things like that. And gratuities and kickbacks. No employee shall accept any gifts, bribes, cash, anything like that in agreement for awarding a contract or a bid or anything like that. So that's what's stated in there. Continues confidential information. No employee is going to use confidential information to their own personal gain when it comes to purchasing and awarding contracts, et cetera. There's the remedies going through the personnel policy guidelines if any employee violates these ethical standards. That's that section. Then we get into equal opportunity and public contracting. Just making sure all of our vendors apply. This will be in the contract language as well, that they adhere to the Kansas Act Against Discrimination, everything like that, all the legal stuff that Maria likes to write in there.
Out of curiosity. Because I know there's plenty of ways to go, if you're gonna go swipe a card to get a coupon back from Menards, or Uline sends their, tire chalk of a buying manual, and in the back it says, oh, hey, by the way, if you spend $500 with us, or whatever, the purchasing department manager gets this $200, the stupid stuff that comes in the mail, but they make it really easy to do, is, or just at Home Depot. But is there anything that employees, and frankly, we're all W-2 as well, that has to sign and say, hey, I didn't get anything out of this, or I haven't received anything, and just attest to it rather than just have it as part of the purchasing policy?
I don't know if there's an annual process of
Mike?
having everyone
Is your
sign
mic
something
on?
like that?
Oh, sorry, my mic. My mic wasn't on.
I don't think there's an annual process for that, but
Yeah, or some sort of a procedure where they've got to put their name to attesting that they didn't get a kickback, because there's so many ways that can happen. That companies are incentivized to try to get them to buy their potentially overpriced things.
So one way we do that is this is going to be reviewed on an annual basis, and on an annual basis upon open enrollment or things like that, we submit our annual forms for our employees to sign. So there will be an annual acknowledgement that they have read and understood this policy if they have that authority to make purchases. If they read and understand this, they know they should not be accepting any gratuities, kickbacks, anything like that. If it does get reported, then we'll follow the proper procedures at that point.
Okay, cool.
I just think you need to define what gratuities and kickbacks are.
Yeah, those are two of the definitions we're going to add in there, just to make sure that's clear.
And confidential information.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the very last page is just a quick reference guide for our employees to use when they're about to make a purchase. And that's it.
Well, it's a good draft. Still got some things to do with it, but so
No, good
appreciate that
conversation,
work.
great feedback, gives us a direction to go on certain items and
Barry,
make revisions, get it back.
I didn't notice as I was reading through in section 9, we were talking about qualifications of vendors and different things we could evaluate. There is a section under section 9, I think it's under 2 other considerations. And there's a laundry list of things there. And one of them includes the business entity has no outstanding liens, fines, or violations or other debts with the city. So that section probably covers everything, but we may just kind of review that and spruce that up a little bit. That might cover a lot of it, but I still think we could use similar language under what's considered for evaluation under the RFP,
And
RFQ
move that
as well.
to section 4, just under the vendor section
Right.
as a whole.
But similar, it's
Right.
probably a good start for that section. You maybe
Okay.
edit it a little bit, but I wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else to talk about on purchasing policy? If not, I think that's the only thing we had on our agenda to talk about tonight. So I think we're ready to call it an evening. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your input. And
Thank you very
we
much.
get enough information. Everybody can make the adjustments, right?
We'll get it made.
Come back with another proposal or updated proposal. Yeah. All right. Well, let's have a good evening. We'll see everybody next Tuesday.